Welcome back to the Swearwolves. I'm Bret. Today you're going to be hearing episode 5. You can't spell slaughter without laughter. Now this was one of our early episodes, and in the early episodes we didn't really have a format like we have now, or that we ended up having. So in this one we're talking about just various different horror comedies that we like. Scary Movies probably brought up, Gremlins is probably brought up, but primarily we're talking about the 1989 film The Burbs from director Joe Dante. Now The Burbs is one of those movies that I remember seeing in the movie theater when I was younger, and I loved this movie. Tom Hanks, this is before he was Tom Hanks, you know, like Forrest Gump, Oscar winner, 2-time Oscar winner, Philadelphia Tom Hanks. This was Joe versus the Volcano, big, The Burbs, splash Tom Hanks when he was doing a lot of comedies. I remember as a family we went and saw this movie, or was this a movie I saw with my friends? My friends and I might have just gone to this movie. Our parents dropped us off at the movie theater, you know, back in the day when that would happen, and we went and saw this, and I love this movie. I still watch it every so often. It's timeless. It's still funny. It's probably one of those movies that I would imagine some executive somewhere is going, you know what movie we should remake? Because they remake nearly everything these days. You know what movie we should remake? The Burbs. But everybody's probably like, you're an asshole. It doesn't need to be remade. Just watch it again. And that's what I think they should do. You know what they should do instead of remaking movies? Is they should just re-release movies into the theater. I'd go to the theater to see The Burbs. I'd go to the theater to see most movies that they're contemplating remaking. I would just go see it again in the theater instead of them remaking it with some pissant actor that nobody cares about. So enjoy episode 5, You Can't Spell Slaughter Without Laughter, of the Swearwolves Podcast. Welcome to the Swearwolves Horror Podcast, the podcast that discusses all things horror. I'm Bret.
I'm David.
I'm Alan.
Last week we discussed horror sci-fi movies. This week we're going to discuss horror comedies, and I actually have a pretty extensive list of horror comedies that I love. What about you?
On us.
What about you guys? Do you guys like horror? Do you guys like horror comedy movies?
I love horror comedy.
I'm kind of picky. If it's too much comedy, then it becomes just a comedy movie for me. You know, I like comedy movies, but for the most part, I like my horror movies with just, a little bit of comedy, or maybe not so much, in your face humor.
I do think that horror and comedy actually lend themselves well to one another
when done right.
Yep.
Yeah, when it's natural. We were talking about in the first episode, actually, we were talking about Jason Lives and how that had some really funny, natural, organic moments. But this episode, we're going to talk about horror comedies, comedy movies that have horror elements kind of more so in there. So I'm going to go through my list, and if you guys want me to talk, or if you guys want to talk about these films, I'll go through my list, and then we'll go down the line here. But number 1 on my list, Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Love that film.
No.
I saw that movie. I lived out in rural Wisconsin, and we didn't have cable for the longest time. We only had like 4 channels, the NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox. And we finally got cable, and we got this movie channel for free, and they would show just like shitty movies. Like one of the movies that they would show, actually, I guess this could be considered a horror comedy too. I didn't even think about it till just now, was Blood Diner.
Blood Diner.
Do you have that?
I have that movie.
Oh
yeah.
God, it's so. That was the first time I ever saw that, and I was just like, I was fascinated because there was nudity. But another movie. One day I turned on the TV and I'm like, I'm gonna turn on this movie channel, and it wasn't HBO, it wasn't Cinemax, it was just like this movie channel. I don't even know what it was. And Killer Clowns from Outer Space was on, and I fell in love because it's so cartoony, it's so well done,
right,
in my opinion. It's an independent film, made by I think I'm pronouncing it right, the Chiodo brothers. Is that how you pronounce it?
I believe so.
Yeah. Who I got to meet, fortunately enough, and they all
Those
signed
guys
an
were
8x10.
cool.
Yeah, they were really nice.
They were really nice, but I got them to sign an 8x10 for me and take a picture with me, and it was just a lot of fun. But they just made this really good film, and supposedly they're going to make a sequel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sweet.
It's been in the
That's
works
awesome.
for a few years now. I didn't really get a chance to ask them because I was kind of like fanboying out, and I was like kind of embarrassed and all that kind of shit when I met them, but whatever.
Were you like, remember when you made Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
They're like that's the
that was
only-
really good.
You know, getting back to our last episode, they did the special effects. I think they did the special effects for Critters.
Yes, that's correct. They
Yeah.
did. Yeah, they did Critters.
And they did special effects for a couple of movies, but I remember Critters.
Mm-hmm.
But those clowns are creepy looking.
Yeah, Killer
They're freaky
Clowns
looking.
is the one that stands out.
Well, I feel like when you go to like Spirit, the Halloween store, that's kind of the new thing. It seems like the last couple of years, lots of clown stuff and demented killer clowns that look like they could have been from the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some great scenes in that movie. But so that's my number one movie. Here's another one. Scary Movie 2. Not Scary Movie 1. I like Scary Movie 2. Now, have you guys seen Scary Movie?
I have. I've seen the second one too. I just don't remember.
Second one is
between
with
them.
Chris Elliott. And
Is that the hand, the tiny hand?
yes.
Take my hand, child.
And when he shoves
My
the hand
strong
up
hand.
the turkey, and he's all, Hiawatha. That gets me. But Tim Curry's in it also.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I love Tim Curry.
I
I
do
think
love
Tim
Tim
Curry is.
Was
is
Leslie
great.
Nielsen in that one yet? Or he's in the third one.
Leslie Nielsen was dead.
No, he's in one of the scary movies.
Really?
Yes.
I don't think he's in any of them.
Are you thinking of Dracula Dead and Loving It?
That's what you're thinking of because he wasn't in Scary Movie.
He was in one of the scary movies.
No, he was dead, dude.
No, Leslie Nielsen.
Before then.
Look up Leslie Nielsen and see what
Let's
year
look it
he
up.
died.
But do you remember, not to go on a tangent, but do you remember Dracula Dead and Loving It? There's like the character.
I never saw it. That was a Mel Brooks film, right?
Yeah, and there's a character who's like his little assistant that like always calls him master. And there's a part where, if I remember correctly, Leslie Nielsen kind of corrects him like, dude, I don't like it when you call me master. And there's a part where like the guy says, master, master. And Leslie Nielsen shoots him a look and he's like, I mean, mister.
So stupid.
I don't remember that movie being very good, but I remember that part making me laugh.
Alan's looking.
Scary Movie 4.
Snap.
He was in Scary Movie.
Come on, guys. He died in 2010.
Really? I thought he died in like 1992.
I remember when he died.
I just
Sorry,
remember,
R.I.P.
So we're in Phoenix, Arizona. Leslie Nielsen was a local.
And Scary Movie 3.
Towards the end of his career, he was doing local credit union commercials.
That's right.
Remember that?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And then he died.
Sorry, Alan.
I blame the credit union for killing him. Actually.
I do too. What was it?
Those sons of bitches. Oh, which credit union?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, fuck them. All right. I love Scary Movie 2 because of Chris Elliott and because of Tim Curry. I think that movie was hilarious. Now, that was more of a comedy, obviously. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, whatever.
Probably a little more horror
Yeah.
for Killer Clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 3 on my list. Well, these aren't really in an order. These are just the order that I thought of them. Shaun of the Dead.
That made my
That
list
one's
as
great.
well. I love that movie.
Yeah.
But grouped with that one is a movie, Spanish movie called Juan of the Dead. Have you ever seen this?
I've heard of it, have not seen it.
I haven't seen that.
It is awesome. It is just as good as Shaun of the Dead.
There's a lot of the Deads now, I think.
There is. There is. I was going to make a movie. I told you guys about this. I was going to make a movie called Red Dawn of the Dead. where basically, and I wrote the first 10 pages. I got to send you guys the first 10 pages that I wrote of it. So you guys, maybe we'll do a reading.
Yeah, that'd be great. Do a
There you
little
go.
table
We'll do the audio book.
Yeah. But it's the first 10 pages. Basically, it's Dawn of the Dead. And I just, instead of Cubans and Russians, it's zombies. So
Brilliant.
Well, what about zombie Cubans and zombie Russians?
Well, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
It's like at the end of the Cold War, during the Cold War, we did a bunch of tests to make super soldiers, and they all failed, and so did Russia, and they didn't fail, and their result was zombies.
If you did a zombie movie about like Cubans and Russians, like the hat budget alone, the funny hat budget, I think would be out of control.
We were talking about Mel Brooks earlier, Young Frankenstein.
oh,
Also on my list.
that's perfect.
I remember I was like always big into horror. David talked about how his dad showed him The Thing. And I remember talking to my stepdad when I was younger, and I was like really big into horror movies, and it was actually Halloween day. And I said, I want to watch a good horror film. And he goes, I got one for you. Young Frankenstein. My stepdad had a sense of humor. Still probably does. I don't talk to him anymore. But, well, because he's not my stepdad anymore.
Oh,
my
okay.
mom marries a lot. But he had a sense of humor, and so he rented me Young Frankenstein. And I was like 10 when I saw it. So I didn't get all the jokes.
There's so many.
There's so many, but that movie is, in my opinion, Mel Brooks' best film.
I was just thinking as you were talking about it, one of my favorite scenes in that whole movie is the scene where where Gene Wilder, where his girlfriend or wife or whoever she is, the Madeline Kahn's character, when she arrives and he's like helping her off the carriage and into the house, he's like, Igor, help me with the bags.
You take the blonde, I'll take the one in the toy bag.
And he like bites at her mink stole that she's wearing, and you can see the actors kind of. You see them break a little bit. They react like you tell. Like I don't know if that was scripted or not, but like
that was Marty.
So funny.
Marty Feldman.
Oh my God.
Marty Feldman.
Best Igor or Igor. Well, I guess they were wrong then, weren't they? Marty Feldman was awesome. Gene Wilder was great as Victor Frankenstein.
It's pronounced Frankenstein.
All right, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. Kind of grouped them together. As horror comedies. I think Evil Dead 2 probably more on the horror side. Army of Darkness started having more fun.
Army of Darkness was like it's like watching a live action Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah. Bruce Campbell.
Give me some sugar, baby.
I think Bruce Campbell probably really shined in Evil Dead 2. He did such a great job with the physical comedy.
Yeah.
The physical aspects, especially when his hand is possessed and it's like attacking him and he has to fight himself. And then there's also him literally fighting himself in Army of Darkness when he splits into two.
Evil Ash.
Such a great couple of films.
Yeah.
Evil Dead 1 is really great also. Sam Raimi, I really wish he would direct more horror. He did
Drag Me to Hell?
Drag Me to Hell. Thank you. He did Drag Me to Hell, and that was getting back to the roots of like Evil Dead.
That was a cool movie.
I love that movie. I think Drag Me to Hell belongs in the Evil Dead universe, really.
Yeah.
There's some funny moments in there. But Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness are on my list. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Man, it's on my list too. I love that movie.
Yeah, David and I, actually, Alan, have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
It's so good. It's like it's a fake documentary about an aspiring serial killer.
Now, is it like a mockumentary?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he idolizes, so like in this universe, Freddy Krueger's real, Jason Voorhees is real, and this guy has grown up idolizing them, and he wants to be the next serial killer. So there's a camera crew that's following him around, and he
invites a camera crew to follow him.
And he's setting up how he's going to kill all these teenagers, and it's hilarious. Like it has a scene of him and he's training. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie. And he's like, something that a lot of people don't think about or talk about is how hard it is to catch people when you can't run, because the killer always has to just walk.
Yeah.
He's like, so you got these teenagers who are running away from you, but you can only walk.
So basically
you got to catch up to them.
It takes every trope of every horror movie and it kind of acknowledges it.
And Robert Englund's in it too. Doesn't he have a small part?
I think you're right. There's also the part I still do it to this day. But there's this part where he's like celebrating. I think it's after like one of his kills, and he's like Knuckles, and then he's all bow it, and they hit elbows. And I still say it to this day. I don't know if my wife understands why I'm saying it, but I'm like, hit it, bow it.
That's a movie I feel like is destined for cult status. And maybe it's already there.
It probably already is. But and then he also has a mask that he wears, and he goes to like this old retired serial killer house, and they're like he's like talking to him, getting advice.
That reminds me of a movie I'm going to mention in this segment, so I'm going to keep that in mind.
I'm intrigued. I got two more. Cabin in the Woods came out a few years ago.
Man, that's on my list too.
Dude, I took your list.
Did we just become best friends?
Besties. Cabin in the Woods I thought was so good. And I was so surprised when I saw that in the theater, and I went to it just because I like horror movies. And then
I was not expecting to like that movie, and I loved it.
Oh, it happened, and I was like, that movie just happened, and it was awesome.
It's brilliant.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh my God.
Okay, so what you need to do, Alan, watch it, and the first minute I was in. The opening scene is fantastic. It's like two guys riding around on a cart, and they're just talking about cabinets or something stupid, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny.
It's a great movie.
And that movie also, fanboy moment. You guys already know this about me. I'm the biggest 9 Inch Nails fan on the planet.
Really?
Yeah, you might.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that true?
I couldn't tell.
The movie ends with the song "Last" by 9 Inch Nails, and I remember the first time I saw that movie, I didn't know that either. When it happened, I was like, "Oh my God!" It's like the cherry on top of the sundae of this wonderful movie.
Half of the things in David's house have the 9 Inch Nails logo.
Yeah, I'm looking at a wall of every 9 Inch Nail poster that ever happened.
Trent Reznor is my spirit animal.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever mentioned that our intro music and our outro music were your creations. And
Yeah,
you're
that's
very
true.
inspired by two people,
Yeah.
John Carpenter and Trent Reznor,
Yep.
which you can tell. And my last one is The Frighteners, which is that on your list too, David?
It's not. It should be. I fucking love that movie. It's so funny.
It is really good with Michael J. Fox and Jake Busey. It's just and another movie that I really didn't think I would like, but then I ultimately loved.
It has a brilliant scene that I love. There's several.
Tell us about it.
I'm going to tell you about it. And there's a part where Michael J. Fox is talking to the widow of this guy who just died, and the ghost of the guy is standing right next to them as they're having the conversation. And the woman is kind of lamenting about their shitty relationship right in front of the ghost. And she's like, we haven't been happy in a long time. And you see the guy's face, and he's kind of like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, we didn't have what you would call an ideal marriage. And the guy just looks at her and he's like, you bitch. Just awesome. Great scene.
All right. So that's my list. David, I did most of your list.
Yeah, let's go to Alan, and then I'll do cleanup.
Okay.
Cool. So you had mentioned a movie about a serial killer with a documentary crew.
Yeah.
So there's a French movie called The Man Bites Dog. Have you guys seen it?
I've heard of it.
I've heard of it also.
1992. So it was released on DVD years ago on the Criterion Collection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a serial killer who has a documentary crew, a film crew, follow him around. And they follow him around as he commits his crimes.
I wonder if The Rise of Leslie Vernon ripped this French film.
Yeah,
Is it a French film?
It's a French film.
I wonder if it ripped it off.
When you mentioned
Behind the Mask.
Behind the Mask, it immediately made me think of Man Bites Dog. And
We'll have to look into that because I bet you something in Wikipedia will tell us.
yeah, it came out in 92. It was shown at the Cannes Film Festival in 92. It had so many accolades. And I think it's one of Tarantino's favorites too. But it's in black and white,
Which means it has to be good.
Yeah,
Did I ever tell you guys about when I worked at a video store in West Hollywood? I lived out in California for a couple of years, and I worked at a video store in West Hollywood called 2020 Video. And celebrities would come in from time to time. And one day, right before my shift started, I was the assistant manager, and I worked the afternoon shift or the night shift, and I'd come in the afternoon. And my manager worked the morning, and she goes, "You just missed Tarantino. He came in and rented a couple movies." Well, part of my job was also to run a report that would show people that had late movies, and Tarantino's name came up. So I had to
Give him a call.
I had to call him. Well, of course, it was an answering service, but I'm all,
damn it,
Mr. Tarantino, this is Bret, and I gave my last name, and I was all, because I was like, oh, maybe he'll like remember me and be like, that's such a good name. I was like 22 years.
That guy.
I was like 21 or 22 years
His
old.
voice is silky smooth.
So then I called him to say, hey, you have these movies out. And then he returned them when I wasn't at the store also.
Oh, of
What a
course.
dick.
This fucking asshole.
What movies did you rent? Do you remember?
He rented,
Like Ghost Dad?
yeah. No,
Cop and a Half?
it was like some blaxploitation movie. I don't know what he was getting
That's
ready to
awesome.
film at the time.
Oh, probably
but-
something with Fred Williamson in it or something.
Yeah, it was something. But you know what the funny thing is? I had a Brett's Pick wall like section at the video store, and like I had a bunch of Tarantino movies and Tarantino favorites and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, when he comes in again, he's gonna see my picks and he's gonna be like, this guy
gotta meet this
knows
guy.
movies because he used to work at a video store and now he's a famous filmmaker. And then dreams were shattered and I never saw him again. But I did meet Tori Spelling. Go ahead, David or Alan.
I want to hear about Tori Spelling. Was she delightful?
She was actually really
Was she
nice.
really nice? Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Her and another guy from 90210 came in and he went to the porn section and he bought like 4 porns.
That's awesome.
And then he came back the next day and bought 4 more.
Good Lord. He's got a problem.
And these were VHSs and these were not cheap at the time. Because, you know, movies back in the day, like it cost a lot of money to buy.
VHS were like $39.95.
Yeah. Now you can buy a DVD for $5. Yeah,
Yeah.
$8.
Yeah.
You can get porn for free now.
Exactly.
But regardless. All right. So Man Bites Dog.
Yeah, Man Bites Dog is great. Also, Sleepaway Camp 3.
Yep.
I had actually, this was the first sleepaway camp I had ever seen. I saw it at my uncle's house. He had the Chiller, I think it was called the Chiller channel. Isn't it Chiller?
Yeah, there's Chiller.
Right?
Well, that's more recent though. Chiller's more recent.
No, it's been around for a while.
The one David.
Oh, that's Shudder.
Oh, Shudder.
But then there's Chiller. It's like a cable channel.
Yeah, it's like an extra channel you can get.
It's like Cinemax?
DirecTV. It's, I don't know. It's like IFC, those kind of channels.
All right.
But I stumbled upon it. I was like, Sleepaway Camp 3, this looks cool. And has a really awesome like metal soundtrack, 80s metal. And it's really different from the first Sleepaway Camp. It's definitely more funny moments. It's definitely a horror comedy. But
How many Sleepaway Camps did they make?
There were supposed to be 4.
I thought there was a 4th one.
And then I think they made another one.
I thought there were like 5 or 6 of them.
Really?
But I've only seen like the first 2.
Yeah. But the original 3.
Is Pamela Springsteen in 2 and 3?
2, right?
She's in 2 and 3.
Okay.
She is in 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Because 2 is where it starts to get a little funny, right?
Yeah, 2 is a mixture of. It's a good balance, but I'd say it's still a little more horror.
Yeah.
But 3, it kind of tips the scale into the comedy.
Yeah.
But it still keeps kind of the gruesome kills intact as well. So that's one of my favorite horror comedies. Also, Chopping Mall.
Yes.
Has some really good moments.
The beginning is a really
yeah.
funny moment with the married couple and they're talking shit about the robots.
And also one of our favorites, Dick Miller, another appearance by Dick Miller.
Dick Miller is in everything.
Yeah. And
he's either a garbage
and he's
man.
in the Burbs, which we'll be talking about shortly.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's in the. I remember the other night I was watching
Yeah, and this
we'll
one he's a
talk about
janitor.
He's either a janitor or a garbage
he's always
man.
a blue collar.
Yeah,
fella.
exactly.
He's still alive too.
He's still alive and he's old as
Yeah.
hell. He's in his 90s, I think.
Yeah, he's been in everything.
Yeah, he's in a lot of good movies. And he's not a major character.
If you could have a career like Dick Miller or like
I get what you're saying though, like where you can have that type of thing where you probably work enough that you live comfortably.
he's probably rich. I mean, comparatively, right?
Yeah, and I'd be willing to bet he can go to restaurants and he can go shopping and he can do everything like a normal person and occasionally get recognized.
Yeah.
Like he's
If
just
you can
famous
have
enough
that, or you're like Leonardo
yeah,
DiCaprio.
that would be my ideal fame. Would be just famous enough that you occasionally get recognized and get
and
perks.
to where you have to work maybe, I don't know, 22 days a week or a year. 22 days a year.
and still be recognized.
Living the dream.
Yep.
Another one, Vamp, with Grace Jones. Another vampire
There's a
movie.
name I haven't heard in.
Yeah. So this one is about some frat boys. They want to. I think they want to throw a party, right, Dave? I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but
yeah, and they go to a strip club.
they
or
go
something.
to a strip club, see if they can find a hooker, bring her back for their party.
Because that's what
could
you
go
do.
wrong?
What could go wrong? But it turns out that they go to a strip club where it is inhabited by vampires.
Listen,
Great plan, poor execution.
listen, we're all guys here. How many times have you gone out looking for hookers? 0 is
None.
my.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, I used to cruise Van Buren just to see them and be like, oh, there's hookers. And then I'd like speed past them. Are there still hookers on Van Buren?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I was in that area not too long ago, and I was like, I think
We're in
recognize
Phoenix,
that
Arizona, and like
profession.
Van Buren.
Just drive down Baseline.
yeah.
You'll be fine.
If you're listening to us from Central Phoenix or the South Side of town, we apologize.
No,
we're sure your area is very, very
I'm
nice.
not insulting the area. I just
I was.
know that.
I'm just kidding.
Anyway, Vamp, was that the last one on your list?
Also, I believe we've discussed this in the past, but Return of the Living Dead.
Oh God, how did I forget that movie?
my God.
It's on my list.
No.
So
we're
another
all
one I
best
saw at a
friends.
young age. And when I was a kid and I saw it, some of the funny parts kind of went over my head because I was so fascinated by the horror element.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older and I've rewatched the movie, you kind of, pick up on some of the funny parts.
So
But,
I'm gonna go out there on a limb and say, Dawn of the Dead is my favorite zombie film.
Mhm.
Return of the Living Dead is my second favorite.
Wow.
Yeah,
High praise.
I think Return of the Living Dead is awesome.
I would say Return of the Living Dead is my favorite zombie movie.
You suck.
What? It's great.
No, you like it better than
I'd
Dawn
still
of
put
the
Dawn of
Dead?
the Dead over it.
Dawn of the Dead, probably second for me. And that says a lot because there's a lot of zombie movies out there that I like, especially some of the European ones, and there's some good ones.
Yeah.
So, Dawn of the Dead number 2.
David, settle this debate. Dawn of the Dead's number 1, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I take Dawn over Return.
David and I are besties. I don't know if you know that.
We're having a real bromance this episode.
It'll change next.
Yeah, I'll say a movie, you'll be like, fuck you. No. I'm
All right. You're batting cleanup.
All right, so a lot of them you guys have already said, but I'll throw a couple of older ones and then a couple newer ones. For like 80s movies, Fright Night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Like Fright
Night.
Night?
Yeah.
Great movie. Chris
Yeah.
Sarandon.
I guess it is a comedy.
It's
though, right?
It's a funny movie.
It has-
It is. I
Yeah.
like the remake too. I thought the remake was really well
I also
done,
enjoyed the remake. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was worthy.
but it's definitely a good film.
Yeah, but I still prefer the original.
Oh, of course.
Obviously, I've mentioned it several times already. Night of the Creeps.
Yep.
Reanimator.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, I don't think of it as a comedy, but yes, it is funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Beetlejuice.
Oh, dude, I could have said that too.
You know what other one I just thought of?
what?
Frankenhooker.
Frankenhooker's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one that none of us have mentioned yet, and I'm gonna say it at the end of the segment.
Okay.
To see if you
Go
guys-
ahead.
Maybe I got
Beetlejuice.
it.
Yeah. Beetlejuice is great.
I love it. And Danny Elfman's music is fantastic.
Tim
All
Burton.
the Tim Burton.
Yeah, of course.
Imagery. Michael Keaton, who's
Could you-
barely even in the movie, is amazing.
Would you say that like Nightmare Before Christmas would be I know it's like a family film, but it's kind of horror, right?
It's
Um,
fantasy.
yeah.
Also getting into that debate is it a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie?
Oh, that's true.
But you know what's good about it is that it's Halloween to Christmas,
It's a
so
great-
it gives
it's a-
you
it's a
2
great
months.
movie.
Hotel Transylvania is also really good.
Yeah.
I have kids.
I
Go
still
ahead.
haven't seen that one.
It's
real,
actually-
real quick, David. Beetlejuice was one of the few movies that was PG and allowed an F-bomb.
Yeah, that's
remember
right.
that?
Yeah.
So, you remember the scene?
Yeah, he kicks over the tree when he's inside the model,
little-
and he's like,
yeah.
nice fucking model," and then he squeezes his balls. Yeah, like a real family moment movie.
I love that movie. It's got
It's
some of the
great.
greatest visuals.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. You got the sandworms. Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
I went several years ago. I think this might have been before we knew each other. But I went as Beetlejuice for Halloween. But I dressed like him in the wedding scene. So I had like a red tuxedo.
Oh, nice.
It was pretty sweet. I had the white shoes. It was
They were-
pretty cool little ensemble.
So supposedly,
And the sequel.
supposedly there is going to be a sequel. Originally, the sequel was Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian,
Yeah.
which is pretty lame. That also got a Saturday morning cartoon. I
did.
know we talked about a
That was-
Saturday morning
I
cartoon.
liked the cartoon.
That was one of my favorite.
It was
Saturday
okay,
morning
but
cartoons.
it didn't make
No,
sense.
it was great.
But it didn't make sense to me.
It was a Nintendo game too, and the game sucked.
Everything
Yeah,
was
that
a
game was
fucking
hard.
Nintendo game,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Everything was a fucking Nintendo game.
I think
Did Alf get its own Nintendo game? Probably
No.
not,
I don't think,
actually.
yeah,
That
no
should
love.
have.
No,
It totally should have.
the
Chasing
Beetlejuice
cats.
cartoon was great. I thought.
It was good, but it didn't make sense. It didn't follow the
But that's
movie
okay.
because Beetlejuice was a bad guy.
That's okay because, in the movie he was a bad guy, and the movie kind of ended. They got rid of him, but I kind of like the fact that the cartoon made it a little different. He was kind of a lovable character.
Him and Lydia.
Yeah. So I thought the cartoon on its own
Yeah.
was solid.
Yeah.
All right.
Couple others. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good movie. I watched that movie.
It's actually not that great of a movie.
It's
No,
actually,
I think it's great.
yeah, maybe that should have been saved for the guilty pleasure.
Elvira-
segment, but,
Makes that movie.
yeah, the movie's pure cheese.
It's,
It's-
Elvira and Edie McClure, right?
It's definitely more on the comedy side of things. One
Oh,
of
yeah,
my
for
favorite scenes is
sure.
when she's changing the letters on the marquee and she kind of slips and she slaps her hand on the marquee to kind of get balance, and she has the letter F and then UCK are up there. So like some of the prude
Can I
people
just
are
tell
walking
you
by and they get
how much I love Elvira?
Oh, yeah.
also
I think
love
she's
her.
awesome.
she's fantastic.
amazing.
Do you know that she was like burned on like
Yeah,
half of her
yeah.
body?
Yep.
Yeah, she had an
I think I
accident
read
when
that
she was
somewhere.
a child.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that too, and she had to wear a lot of makeup, and I guess she was really self-conscious about
Yeah.
it, and it's something now she's sort of embraced.
Yeah.
It's part of her
Yeah.
identity.
Interesting. All right, go
Yeah.
ahead.
And then as far as like newer ones, a couple. I got a big list, but I'll for the sake of time, I'll just say a few. Zombieland.
Yeah,
I thought
Zombieland was
hilarious.
really good.
I'm looking forward to the sequel. I thought. It was
they're
a
making
really
a.
funny
I didn't
movie.
even know
Yeah,
they were
they're doing
making a
another one.
sequel.
I think it's coming out next
That
year.
was Woody Harrelson, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Bill Murray.
Bill
was in
Murray.
that.
Bill,
Yeah.
Bill
Oh.
fucking Murray.
That was
scene's
great.
fantastic. So
Yeah.
I'm so
R.I.P.
sorry if you haven't seen it. There's a surprise
Spoiler alert.
with Bill Murray, and it's brilliant.
Well,
Sorry,
I'm
everybody.
gonna say spoiler alert because that movie's old
That movie
enough.
came out in like
Yeah.
2009.
Yeah,
So if you're
Bill
late to the game,
Murray
that's your
fakes
fault.
to be a zombie
and
and then he gets shot.
Yeah, he pretends to be a zombie to scare someone, and then he thinks he's a real zombie and shoots him with a gun and kills him.
Yeah.
And then that part when he's dying is also brilliant because
Yeah.
I think it's Jesse Eisenberg or somebody.
Yeah.
No, Emma Stone. She's like, "Hey, do you think you're gonna pull through?" And he goes, "No." And then he dies.
You know, and that's before Jesse Eisenberg and Emma Stone became
Yeah,
famous.
yeah, they're
Jesse
pretty-
Eisenberg went on to the Facebook movie,
Yeah,
and
Social
Emma
Network.
Stone went on to La La Land.
Yeah. The Social Network with the score
Social Network.
by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails.
He won an Emmy for
He
that
did, he
one.
won an Oscar.
Or Oscar,
Yeah.
not an Emmy.
Yeah.
Why would he win an Emmy?
He won an Oscar. Yep.
He needs to win an Emmy because has he won a?
So he can get the Tony,
the trifecta.
The EGOT.
Yeah,
Yeah, you should do that.
he doesn't have a Tony.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't know, but you never know. Have you guys seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
I tried to watch it.
You didn't like it?
Not that I didn't like it. I fell asleep.
Oh, okay, you need to give it another shot. Pretty funny.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's
I know
on
what you're talking
Netflix.
about, though.
Yeah, it's kind of a couple rednecks.
Rednecks.
There's a bunch of teenagers who keep dying in strange and ironic ways, and they're convinced that these people are trying to murder them.
Yeah.
And they're convinced that there's like a suicide pact, and all these kids are for whatever reason killing themselves in front of each other, and everyone's afraid of everybody. It's really funny. Another recent one, it was a Netflix movie. It was called The Babysitter with Samara Weaving.
No. I
Okay.
haven't.
That one's about like this kid who's he's got a babysitter that he really likes, and she's really cute, and he finds her like really attractive, and while he's upstairs, he kind of sneaks down to like get a look at her, and finds out that she is part of like a cult that kills somebody.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then we already talked about the rise of Leslie Vernon. And then one more I'll do. Two more. First one is a movie called Suck. Have you seen Suck?
Suck.
It's a Canadian movie about a rock band that's kind of struggling, and they're on the road, and they're on the cusp of breaking. And then the bass player in the band, who's a woman, gets bit by a vampire, and she becomes a vampire. And so the movie is this road trip movie of them touring, but she's also feeding and killing people. And the band's starting to get popular, and they figure out that she's a vampire, and they kind of used the vampire angle as a marketing ploy. But then other members of the band slowly also start becoming vampires, and it's got tons of cameos by different musicians. Like Moby's in it, and like has a bunch of piercings, and he's a real jerk. Alice Cooper's in it. Alex Lifeson from Rush.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's Canadian, does it have like REO Speedwagon?
That's got a Rush.
You gotta have Rush if it's Canadian.
And then last one for me, and this should be very obvious given the name of our show, What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
I find that movie obviously
very funny.
Hilarious.
Well, tell people that aren't familiar with it why.
So kind of a fake documentary too about a group of, I think they're from New Zealand, right? And they're roommates, and they're vampires. And the movie covers everything from like tedious housework.
And they're all like different.
They're
levels.
different era of vampires. So you have like the new school vampire, and then you've got like a Victorian era one, and there's one that's like really into torturing people.
There's like the
and then
Nosferatu.
there's like a
one.
really, really old vampire. And it just has tons of little situations come up. There is a scene involving werewolves.
That's where our name comes
that's where
from.
our name
You
comes
know
from.
what you should do on our website in our blog post the link to the YouTube clip. There's
I
a
can do
YouTube
that.
clip where they meet the werewolves after a night of partying on the streets, and they have their conflict because werewolves and vampires don't like each other.
No.
But you know what? If I could be one, I'd be a werewolf
I would too.
over a vampire.
I'd be a swearwolf.
Although chicks, as we know from our last episode,
They dig the vampires.
They do.
That movie, I really like the scene. There's a part where he has one of the vampires has a girl that comes over for a date, and he's real excited about it. And while they're talking, he's putting newspapers all over the ground because he's going to kill her. And then he eventually just bites her and blood gushes everywhere, like gets all over everything. And then he's talking to the camera afterwards. He's like, I thought that went really well. It's a funny movie. And just to wrap this up, something I'm going to surprise you guys with. If you are following us on Twitter or on Facebook, you may notice that our icon photo it's actually a patch, but it's a round patch with a werewolf howling at the moon, and it says the word "fuck" with a bunch of U's. He's howling it, and then it says "Swearwolves for life" and has a bunch of moon phases on it. I thought the patch was really, really cool. So I reached out to the person that designed it. Her name is Mackenzie, and I want to give her a shout out. So if you're on Twitter, follow her at Robot Owls. She also has an Etsy shop at etsy.com, etsy.com/shop/timid cryptids, and that's TIMIDCRYPTIDS. If you want to get a patch of your own, we're looking at them right now.
So
they're really cool looking. I reached out to her.
You took that image.
I did, and I wanted to make sure that she was cool with it. So I told her, I was like, hey, look, I want to use this image on social media, but it's important to me. I want to make sure you're cool with it.
And we're putting it to good use.
Yeah, and I was like, if you're not cool with it, I will take it down. And if I never hear from you, if you're not comfortable, I'll just assume that you don't want to do it.
And she's been very gracious.
Very, very, very nice.
And she created that?
She did.
And you got patches for me and
I did,
Al?
yeah. So, yeah, we got patches for you guys.
Very nice.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put it on a hat.
I'm gonna put it on a hat too.
It's like the members only jacket.
Yes. So if you want to join, our, you can be a member too. So if you want a patch of your own, go to that website. I'll post that.
Tell her that the Swearwolves sent you.
Yeah, and join us and get a patch because they're really, really
those
cool.
are really.
She does great work. There's some other stuff on her website, and
those are
it's
awesome.
very cool.
She does great work.
Yeah, I can't wait to put it on a hat.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, so I guess the final movie that we'll talk about for our horror comedy.
Well, real quick, Brett,
Yeah.
I'm surprised nobody said Ghostbusters.
Oh shit!
You're right.
Wow.
I'm surprised David didn't.
I was
say
waiting for one of you guys to say it.
I got a Ghostbusters pinball machine sitting like 20 feet away from
it.
us. I feel like a real piece of shit.
I just consider it a comedy, I guess, but
Well,
yeah,
a lot. Well,
there is that.
There's some scary shit like the monsters
library.
and
The
the
library.
the ghost at the very beginning of the movie.
there are definitely some horror elements in that movie.
Zool in the refrigerator.
Yeah,
Right.
You're right.
Yep.
You're right.
And,
But go ahead.
oh no, I also. Well, no. Let's keep talking about Ghostbusters. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna move on, but go ahead.
Well, no. I also want to shout out to Pee-wee's Big Adventure because that had a scary moment when I was a kid.
One scary
That
moment.
one scary moment.
Yeah.
Still,
Large Marge.
I love it. That's awesome.
Ghostbusters was awesome, and I remember Ghostbusters. God, I saw that in the theater. My father took me and my sisters to go see it. We would go down to my dad's house every other weekend to visit him, and he would take us to see movies all the time, but he took us to see Ghostbusters, and we all loved it. We came back from visiting him, and we pooled all of our piggy bank money together.
Yeah.
And we went to my mom and my stepdad, and we're like, look, we'll pay if you guys take all of us to go see the Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they were so touched by that of course we didn't have to pay.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
But they took us all to see it, and we all loved it. So that was what,
84, I think.
Yeah, 83, 84.
Yeah, I think 84.
Good.
I got a quick Ghostbusters story too, because I know we got to move on. But I was a huge Ghostbusters fan. I had the Ghostbusters zapper that projected ghosts on the wall. It's actually sitting in this room that we're recording in right now.
Did you like the cartoon?
I loved the cartoon.
The real Ghostbusters.
But I was really into the Ghostbusters, and for my school talent show, and this would have been probably like 1987, 88, or whenever around the cartoon was popular. My best friend at the time, my sister, and her best friend all did this thing where like one of them was dressed like a ghost, and we came out and there was strobe lights and we zapped him, and then it turned into then the Ghostbusters song started to play. Yep. And me and my buddy pogo balled, and my sister and her best friend did jump rope to the Ghostbusters song. So if you can picture,
Can I ask a question?
and we did the whole song. I'm sure it was really terrible for everyone in attendance.
I was going to ask, and why was this a talent?
Pogo-balling stuff, man. Yeah. No, I don't know. It was.
Don't knock it till you try.
I remember thinking I was the coolest guy ever at the time, but now it sounds just really lame and kind of sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to move on. But if there's any that we're forgetting, Adam's Family, just let us know. So
Adam's Family.
that's my little my little Kevin Nealon, Mr. Subliminal shout out.
Well, moving on, the last horror comedy that we want to talk about is The Burbs. Now, I love this film. I saw this in the theater.
Yeah, me too.
Tom Hanks is
What a guy.
what a guy. I will say Tom Hanks is probably, we all know him as Oscar winner Tom Hanks these days. And his very serious roles in Philadelphia and Saving Private Ryan, and then Forrest Gump, obviously he won the Oscar for that. But his physical comedy,
hilarious
in movies like The Burbs or The Money Pit or Joe versus the Volcano, which I actually really
I like that
enjoy
movie too. Yeah.
Turner and Hooch.
But The Burbs, 1989. This movie had horror elements, a lot of horror elements actually, but so funny.
Very funny moments.
Hilarious movie.
We got Bruce Dern.
Yeah.
We got Carrie Fisher playing
the wife.
We got Corey Feldman. Any movie with the Feld dog is awesome.
Ricky Butler, the neighbor.
What are your memories of this movie? What do you think about this movie, David?
I saw it at the theater when it came out, and I remember seeing it with my family. And what's weird is I remember when we walked out, none of us liked it. And then I know. And then years passed, and there was a video store by my house. And when they closed, they sold off all their inventory, and we bought a bunch of VHS tapes. My mom used to do daycare out of the house, so we needed a bunch of movies that were kid friendly. So that was rated PG. So we bought a bunch of movies, and that was one of them. And then we watched it one day, and all of us were like, dude, what was up our butts that day? This movie is gold. This movie's hilarious.
Sometimes it takes a second.
And now
why are we showing it to kids?
Literally everyone in my family finds that movie hilarious. Like, we all love it. But that movie cracks me up. I think just the plot is also very similar if you're a fan of The Twilight Zone. There's an episode called The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, which is all about paranoia and convincing yourself that the people around you are monsters. And that's kind of what the movie's about, is just...
Well, so quickly to go over the plot. The plot is suburban America, Midwest, I believe is where it takes place, because they do the whole pan in.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to take place in Iowa or something.
And they are living in this neighborhood, this suburban neighborhood, and there's a new neighbor who moved into the house after the old neighbors abruptly moved out without saying goodbye to anybody. And Tom Hanks plays the direct, property line neighbor to this new family.
The
Klopeks. And something's not so right. I mean, he steps foot on their lawn and the wind starts blowing.
Yeah, he looks over the fence at night, and they're in the backyard digging in the rain.
The house stands out from all the other houses.
Yeah, it's
weird
very
noises come from
it's
the house.
unkept.
Yeah, it's very, very creepy. Everything's pristine white picket fence, white houses and green lawns, and theirs is dingy.
It looks like a haunted house.
Yeah, it looks like straight out of a haunted house. And so the other neighbors, he's got a neighbor across the street, Bruce Dern,
Mr. Rumsfeld.
Mr. Rumsfeld. He's like the colonel. He's
like a Vietnam vet.
Yeah. And then his other neighbor,
Rick Ducommun.
Yep. Who plays Art Weingartner.
Yeah. And he's
kind of obnoxious.
Oh, he's the douche. He's the douche of the neighborhood.
He's the one that kind of pushes
the loudmouth.
Tom Hanks' character. There's something going on over there.
Yeah, and he's always coming over at just the scene where he
what
comes
are you guys
over.
eating in there?
He eats all their food.
And he takes ribs. It's morning and he's eating eggs and sausage. Then he takes ribs.
Carrie Fisher's cooking breakfast and he's eating
he even grabs
4 kinds of meat.
And he even grabs a pineapple at one point.
Yeah, he grabs a whole pineapple. But the funny thing is she's going to feed the dog and she walks by with the dog's food and he grabs a little bit of that and pops it in his mouth.
I never noticed that.
Yeah,
Watch for that.
No, because what happens is he's eating the food and she walks by with the dog's dish and he grabs some and puts it in his mouth, and he's all, ugh, ugh. He gets that look, and then she's all, here, whatever the dog's name is, and she sets the food down, and so you realize that he ate the dog food. But yes, he does grab a whole pineapple and a rack of ribs. He just eats everything, but they're cool with it. That's him. But his wife is gone for the week, so he's at home by himself, and so he has nothing better to do than to hang out with Tom Hanks, who's actually also taking a vacation.
Or trying to.
Yeah, and if
He just wants to chill.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it was changed when the movie was released, but originally I guess there was a scene that revealed that Tom Hanks had actually been fired from his job.
So I was actually going to mention that. Is like, I get the impression that he was saying he was taking a vacation to cover up the fact that he had gotten fired from his job.
Or laid off or something.
From his wife. Like, he didn't want to tell her. So he's like, I'm just going to take a vacation to take a break. That's the impression that I actually got throughout the whole movie. So anyway, so he was taking a break for the week. His neighbor didn't have a wife. Apparently he didn't have a job either. What was his fucking job?
Oh, Art?
Yeah.
I can't remember. I feel like they did make an excuse for why his wife wasn't going to be around or why he was going to have the house to himself.
Well, his wife was with his mother-in-law, and he didn't want to spend the week with his mother-in-law and his wife.
That's right.
But I don't know what his job was. And then he got Ricky.
The neighborhood party animal.
Yeah, he's
Corey
just
Feldman.
Corey Feldman. His parents are always gone, and he's supposed to be painting the porch. And Bruce Dern even goes, paint the porch.
Hey, meathead. Paint your damn house.
And then there's the snobby neighbor down the street who has the dog.
Yeah, he goes
Walter.
missing.
Walter Klopek. Or
No, not
Klopek.
Klopek.
No. Yeah. Walter, I can't remember his last name, but yeah.
But Walter, he has the dog who shits on Bruce
Queenie.
Queenie, who shits on Bruce Dern's lawn. But he goes, all of a sudden, he's gone.
He's gone. So they break into his house.
They break into his house. Bruce Dern, I keep calling him Bruce
the
Dern.
neighbors.
Mr. Rumsfeld, Art, Tom Hanks, and Corey Feldman. They all break into his house, and the only thing that they find is his toupee. And why would he leave the house? His dog is there.
Yeah.
He's gone. His dog, who he loves more than anything, and his toupee is there also. So they're like, what the fuck is going on here? But Tom Hanks says, nothing's up. He slips the toupee through the mail slot in the door.
Takes the dog.
Writes a note
says,
saying,
I have your dog.
I have your dog. And
did you know that dog is the same dog from Silence of the Lambs?
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
It puts the lotion on its body. Don't hurt my dog. Puts the lotion in the basket, or it's the hose. Put the fucking lotion in the basket.
Why does it say it that way?
Put the fucking lotion in the basket. I don't know. Buffalo Bill, he was awesome.
Can you imagine what he looks like from behind, though? A little wiener poking through.
Looks like Finkel and Einhorn from
little fruit bowl in the back
from Ace Ventura. Jesus. There's a bunch of people in the neighborhood plunging their face, like vomiting. Dan Marino is like, I kissed Buffalo Bill. Anyway, so they're like, what happened to Walter? Nothing happened to Walter. But slowly but surely, they start discovering the neighbors might be involved.
Yeah, more suspicious stuff starts happening. They start going through their trash.
Dick Miller is the trash man.
They see them digging at night.
Yeah.
So Art's really pushing, like, gotta go over there. We gotta see what's
going on. So we gotta talk about the neighbors, the Klopeks. There's three of them. There's the son, who's played by, I don't know the actor's name, but he played Malachi.
Courtney Gaines.
Gaines
from Children of the Corn.
He played Malachi in Children of the Corn, and he is Hans
Christian Andersen, a fine Christian name.
His name is Hans Klopek. Yeah, Bruce Dern. Hans Christian Andersen, a fine Christian name.
They go, and they're like, just to skip ahead a little bit, like, they go in the house, they find a picture, like, and like, oh, cute girl. Is she a friend of yours? And he goes, no, it came with the frame.
We could probably quote this movie, but all day long. But I really think instead of just saying what happens in the entire film, people got to watch this movie.
Yes.
You got to watch it.
It's on Amazon Prime right now. So if you're a Prime member and I don't get paid by Jeff Bezos, I wish I did.
That would be nice. Give me that Bezos money.
Give me that Bezos money. I order enough shit from him that I should.
Jeff, if you're listening, dude, hit
us up.
Yeah.
If you like horror films, Jeff, we'll have you on the podcast. Anyway, it's on. If you're a Prime member, it's on for free on Amazon Prime, or you can just, buy the DVD, buy the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it, and it's probably a twice a year watcher.
I watch it pretty regularly.
Yeah, I would say you could watch it twice a year. Like I said, Tom Hanks. I got to mention this one part because I just thought it was brilliant. When the house blows up at the end. And he comes out of the ruins and he comes down the stairs.
And his feet, like he just kind of glides
He's just
down.
like, bop, 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 bop.
And you know what's funny? I'm so inspired by that scene that's how I come down the stairs in my own house all the time. I just try to just kind of slide it.
Oh, there's some great moments.
Great.
Bruce Dern has one of the greatest moments. I was telling Alan on our way up here, and David, you helped me quote this, but he goes into the house meeting the Klopeks for the first time, and Uncle Ruben. And he's like, Klopek, what is that? Slavic?
No.
Oh, you're about a level 9 there on the tension scale there, Ruben.
Bruce Dern has great lines. One of my favorites is the first time that they're all kind of gossiping outside the house. This really weird noise comes from the house, and then all this like puff of smoke, and you see flames coming from the basement, and then all the power goes out in the neighborhood. And then they have like a weird smell. They're like, what is that smell? And Bruce Dern goes, smells like they're cooking a goddamn cat over there. So awesome.
What's another one? What's another one?
Hey, Pinocchio, where are you going? Han's trying to run away, and he's wearing a little vest. Looks like Pinocchio.
Oh, yeah, he tackled him.
Oh, my God.
When Corey Feldman mentioned the pizza dude, the pizza delivery guy, he said pizza dude. That became a common phrase because of that movie.
I called
was
the pizza
so
dude.
annoyed. I watched this the other night. Me and my son and my wife watched this. Every time Feldman talked, I was like, oh, shut up. like
It didn't really bother me.
Yeah, Feldman doesn't bother me in that movie.
Nah.
No, he doesn't bother me. But when he would say pizza dude, I called the pizza dude. And at the end, he looks at the camera. I love this dude.
I like my favorite Tom Hanks line. Do you remember the part where they watch the Klopeks? I think it's shortly after the goddamn cat line. They back out of their driveway with all the lights off, and then they drive to the end of the street.
And puts the trash in.
And he puts the trash.
Yeah.
He takes a bag that looks like it could be a dead body.
Hans
does, and puts it in the trash can, and then starts hitting it with a stick.
Yeah.
And I had to write this down because it's a great line. He says, Tom Hanks looks out and he says, "I never seen that. I never seen anybody drive their garbage down to the street and then bang the hell out of it with a stick. I never seen that."
Yeah.
It's so good. Just quick side story. So, and actually that scene, something very similar happened in my own life. So Alan and Brett both know this. I have, for the entire time we've known each other, I refer to my next door neighbors as the Klopeks because they are people that rarely come out. They only come out at night. They're very strange. And a couple of years ago, they burned their house down. And
they haven't lived there
since.
They
haven't lived there since. And now, a couple months ago, we had a bad monsoon storm here in Phoenix, and a gigantic tree in their backyard got blown over and is currently sitting on and in, like it impaled their house. So there's a tree sticking out of their house.
Nobody lives there.
They
haven't lived there for 2 years.
But what's really funny and what reminded me of this is the day after their house burned down, I heard a weird noise and I went to my backyard and I kind of peeked over the fence, and the neighbors, the Klopeks, were moving around back there, and they had a flashlight that they would only turn on in like 2-second intervals. They would turn it on and then the light would go off and then you'd hear movement. It was like they didn't want to be seen. And then, I shit you not, a few minutes later, they backed out of their driveway with their lights turned off on their car. They did. And they drove away, and they drove all the way to the end of the street. And when they went around the corner, then they turned the headlights on.
Oh my God.
And that was the last time I saw them.
Wow.
What's in that
Fucking
house?
creepy.
What's in that house?
Oh,
Is there shit still in there?
Yeah, they were big time hoarders.
That's how the house caught on fire.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And didn't he not know if his wife was in the house?
Yeah. Apparently he wasn't sure. There was this weird confusion about whether or not the wife was around. Then we found out the wife was maybe out of town.
Oh God.
The whole thing was just really
Did you
shady.
ever
Really
notice any funny smells?
No.
Smelled like they're cooking a goddamn
cat
cat.
over there. I should have been inspired by this movie and just invited myself over with brownies or something one day and pick at their wallpaper and stuff.
Yeah, we all go over there with our wives.
Yeah.
That story, that house, it's still empty.
It's still, it's been
It's boarded
over
up.
2
They were
years.
chopping down a tree
that we
this
know
morning.
of, right? Are
Yeah,
we sure that
when,
it's empty?
Yeah, when you guys showed up, they were still chopping down a tree. So, yeah,
I feel like at your Halloween party this year, we should sneak over there.
we should do it.
Get enough beers in us, and we'll sneak over
go
there and
sneak
like
around.
look through.
Mm-hmm.
What if there's like bodies?
That's what I'm saying. Are we sure it's empty?
There has to be.
You found one of my skulls, didn't you?
There can't be any bodies because the police probably had to investigate after fire.
And then Mr. Klopek's going to show up and like, I want my skull. Or maybe I'll just take yours. Wonderful.
All right.
Go see it.
All right. Well, if you have your favorite horror comedy movie, as Alan said earlier, message us. Where can they message us at, David?
You can message us. We go directly through our website, www.theswearwolves.com. You can follow us or tweet us at The Swearwolves on Twitter. You can go to Facebook where we are The Swearwolves, or you can email us directly at swearwolvespodcast@gmail.com.
All right. And for the Swearwolves, I'm Brett.
I'm David.
I'm Alan.
Have a great week.